Hi everyone, welcome to St. Stephen's Green. St. Stephen's Green, as you all know today, was a park, but up until 1663 it was actually a commons. So I'm just going to clarify what a commons is for those people who may not know it. The commons is basically a resource that anyone is allowed to use. So this can be anything from land and water to software. An example of this that we see today is the Wiki Commons. The Wiki Commons is basically an archive, a file, and other media files that anyone is allowed to use. Historically, the commons, such as St. Stephen's Green, was a place especially that peasants used to come and maybe graze their animals, use the timber for fuel, or forage for wild foods and herbs for healing. It was also a place of shelter for people who were homeless, and also a place of refuge for people who were in trouble with the law. This, as with the enclosures that happened then later on, the commons then become associated less with rights and became associated with unruly masses. And even the word, the commons, changed as well, which it then started associated as a term of belittlement. So, what happened? Why was the commons so important for women? Well, the commons was available for everyone to use, including women. It was important because women had less landholding rights and less social power. So this was a way of also providing for themselves and their family. So they would come here and maybe graze their animals or forage. And this was very important for them, as the commons was a place alongside the marketplace, where they would come and basically that they could hang out with other women. It was a central part of their social lives. So they could come and maybe they would perhaps exchange news or exchange advice or just talk about the generals going on in the community. So obviously with the enclosures, this was a negative impact for the women. So where was St. Stephen's Green at the time in the 17th century? So at the time it would have been just outside of the city, as obviously Dublin was much smaller at the time. But also, it was also an integral part of the Anglo-Norman landholding system, and certain classes of manorial tenants held certain rights over the commons, such as timber. It is also associated with grazing rights for the freemen of the city. So to this day, holders of the freedom of the city of Dublin have rights over St. Stephen's Green. So some of you might have seen in 2000, Bona had a photo call with Lamb, with him and Lambs. This is related to this, with the grazing rights. So it was a little surprise that the importance of the commons would be lost to the old boys of the Dublin Corporation, because firstly, people who were in charge of the Dublin Corporation were firstly men, but not only that, they were wealthy, so they wouldn't have the understanding of why the commons were so important for peasants and also for women. And basically, how they viewed the St. Stephen's Green was a wasteland outside of the city that added neither pleasure nor profit. And so, with the decision to create a garden park, they felt that this would add to the reputation, advantage, ornaments and pleasure of the city. So, they also, the way that the St. Stephen's Green was supposed to also embody the Enlightenment. And so, in actual fact, as you might notice here, it is quite geometrical, St. Stephen's Green. And it was this idea that there was this man's triumph over nature, which I think myself is quite interesting, because nature as well is associated with something femininity. So kind of take that one way or another, is this idea of triumph over Mother Nature. So with the enclosures, there was obviously resistance against them. And not only male peasants took part in this resistance, but women featured prominently in them. Unfortunately, we lack the sources about women's roles in the resistance of the enclosing of St. Stephen's Green, but one could definitely be fair to assume that they had a major role, much like their sisters in all across Europe, in fighting against the enclosure of the commons. So what happened to St. Stephen's Green after the enclosure? Well, the idea that they wanted to do was basically they wanted to get rid of the unruly masses, and so were ejected from the garden park. And they thought that basically that order would prevail, but this ended up not really happening. It actually became a focus of disorderly assembly throughout the 18th century. So basically the poor would come here and use this as a chance to come and mock and satirize those of the ruling elite. So I think that was so they didn't quite figure out how they wanted to. Okay, thank you.